Hello and welcome back on a wonderful wet Monday morning. Absolutely tipping down a couple of hours ago, and still raining now. It's supposed to be for the next hour or two, which means that my commute this morning is going to be on damage. Not necessarily the best choice for a wet ride, it has to be said, because the Sportster is better, given it's got a full back mudguard. Well, at least at the moment. However, yesterday I decided to play with that, so it's damage. Normally, the last couple of weeks anyway, I've been cycling into work, which frankly takes about the same time. And if you take into account that getting stuff ready for the bike, checking the bike, getting the bike out, putting your gear on, it's probably, I have to admit, quicker to cycle. And it's about 4.5 miles, so it's not very far, and it's flat as a pancake around here. I think the height gain from between, it's slightly downhill on the way to work. On the way home, I think the height gain in total, according to Strava, is about 44 feet. That's over 4.5, 5 miles. I think it's 5 miles on the way back. So it's about 20 minutes. So a very easy run. But anyway, bikes don't have mudguards. Because the weather's been nice, I'm cycling in what I wear to work, so that will get wet and muddy, and you get a stripe up the back. So I either need to fit some mudguards to one of the bikes, or my preferred option is just to use the bike. So damage today. I've just done the morning checks on it, tyres, lights and so forth, according to Del Boy's checklist, which is always useful. So now I'm just got a few minutes before I need to get ready, and I thought it would be useful to perhaps do a few updates, given it's been quite a long time since I last did a video. So let's just have a quick look around the shed and see where we are. Right, now biggest change in the shed is that I finally decided what I was doing. Let me move around so we can see, with the partition, and I decided to take it out. What I've done is I've left two stub walls at each end, so that it's providing a little bit of extra stability for the roof, which is quite big and heavy. So at least I've got some support in there. I've also put some benching in, as well as some of the Halford's flooring that was popular on the forum a little while ago. I bought a couple of packs, and it seems to be about the right size. I made put the supports in just at the right size, so I could slide that drawer unit in, and maybe another one if I ever find one cheap enough. Yesterday I actually bolted my vise down, which was necessary because I was trying to work on it with it flopping around, and it wasn't very good. And the one that's attached to my cheap workmate, I broke the workmate, so that one's dead. I have my, if I pull it out, I have my £2 footstool from eBay, which was a nice buy, which means I can now sit at the workbench in front of the window. Now my major problem at the moment is I have clutter everywhere. I'm just doing some sorting out on some my Roma calibers at the moment, so hopefully that will go away. I'm back in the back in the chest, but it's just crap everywhere, absolutely crap everywhere. Yeah, a forum buy, as it were. I did take advantage of the Amazon offer, and they fit in quite nicely in the corner. I also bought a MIG welder. Not even tried to use it yet. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. I need to look up some videos and have a go, I guess. Well, we'll see. Waiting for that to happen. I also put in a rail for the bikes. It's not ideal. I really wanted to put in a metal rail, but I happen to have a piece of old banister, and I bent some metal into some S-shaped hooks, not quite S-shaped, but which means the bikes can now hang up out the way, and allow me to use them as and when. As I said, the rest of the garage, well, it's just crap piled absolutely everywhere. So storage is a definite must moving forward. Right, but the thing I actually want to talk about probably is just where I am with damage, because I haven't done very much, but I've done a few little changes. And the first change was to actually change the foot pegs. Before they had the standard rubber topped ones, which is probably great, certainly no vibration, but these ones were on the XT. I just had to get a bit grinder on them a little bit so that they would actually lift, because the metal here is just a fraction too long. Otherwise they slotted straight in, and I think they seem to look much better, a little bit more aggressive perhaps. The other thing I noticed, I do have a little bit of oil leaking out from somewhere under the sprocket cover, so I'm guessing that maybe the primary or the oil seal behind the front sprocket has started to fail. I'm not really sure, I don't really know Bandits that well, so maybe there's another cause. I guess I'm sort of hoping it might be that, because it's probably relatively easily fixed, but that's something I need to do. It doesn't leak a lot, but it's all fresh oil and it does certainly leak a bit, so that's on the list of things to have a look at, but probably need suggestions as to that one, because I don't want to be pulling that apart if I don't need to. Oh, I've certainly never changed one of those, so that'll be an interesting experience as well. Yeah, and if it'll focus, Ratty says hello. Now, on the front of the bike, what I did yesterday was just, if I can actually show it here, to actually extend, I put a little bracket in the back to extend the headlamp forward, because the back of the headlight, this is probably the wrong side, let me just say, I should point out it's now in proper rat style, if I can get that to focus. Now it has tape holding the indicator on because the thread's stripped, so it flops around all over the place. Let me come in on the other side. Not sure if I can see better here. Right, so let's just move it forward only about half an inch, as you can see, but it's just enough. The back of the headlight here, where my fingers are, you have these, not sure if I can get it in there, you've got these mounting points here that Dell had that sort of Street Fighter-y type bracket that could bolt onto them, but it was just catching the back of the headlight just ever so much. So I've moved it forward. Not entirely sure it's improved the looks at all, and certainly you can see the rat's nest of wiring a little bit easier now. But well, at the end of the day, that I can sort, and I have some ideas in mind for that. I've also mounted these bark busters here, which happily protect my fingers in case I am clipping cars in filtering through. Again, I just like the look. Now I've got some plans in mind for these. I just bought these on eBay with the plastic handguards on. I had to bend them quite a bit to actually get them around these levers, although I have actually considered getting shorter levers. I do have some little shorter levers, which would mean I wouldn't have needed to bend them, but as they are. But now the plastic guards won't fit. I never intended to use the plastic guards, so I'm not overly worried about that, but I am intending to think about making something that will just cup over there, because I'm still going down the whole sort of armour route that Dell started, and I had always planned chainmail to complement this. Of course, Dell's beating me there, getting ahead, so I'm interested to see what he will do. Now, the other thing I did do was to experiment with this little fly screen. Now, doesn't really, the lighting's not very good here. Now, I had a metal shed in the garden which I took down and I still haven't thrown away. The metal is really thin. You could probably cut it with scissors, most of it. But there are a couple of thicker panels, and I used one of them to make this. I just cut it and bent it, and then I cut smaller bits off. And these are all riveted on. It isn't quite the effect I wanted. And this unit itself is just actually bolted to the back of the clocks, which isn't great. This tends to flex quite a bit when you're riding down the road. This moves quite a bit. Actually, as a screen, it's quite effective. Going down the M3 to meet the collective last weekend, it was probably less buffeting when I was at the speed limit. So that's a good thing. But I want to sort of continue that theme a bit more around the front, and I've got some ideas, but it's actually just turning those ideas into reality, which at the moment is a bit challenging because I have various ideas and some of them are harder to put into place than others. So that's the Bandit. Now, the other thing I did yesterday afternoon was to start to play with the Sportster again, because I've modified the front end a little bit. The only thing I want to do just at the moment with the front end is to drop the headlight down a little bit. I shifted the speedo off to the side to clean up the handlebar areas, but at the moment what I want to do is shift this underneath here, so the whole headlight will actually drop down about this much, which I think, because at the moment it's just a little sitting a little bit high. I think I'd like it a little bit lower. Now you can buy a kit that will allow you to do that, but given the kit, well, the kit's, the one I've seen from Chainsicle, is also designed to remount your instruments, which I don't have there anymore anyway, except for this remaining, the LED, well, are they LEDs? Yes, I suppose they are. The little bulb unit anyway for the indicator lights, which has been chopped and fitted into that space. So I say this wants to come down. I say the Chainsicle kit, it's, I don't know, I think it's about $45 plus shipping. So I can't imagine how much that's going to come to. So, but basically it just involves some bolts which slip through here, and you have just a spacer to clear this area, and then it bolts to the bottom. So I'm just going to order some bolts in and see how that works. But the main change is at the moment the back end. As you can see, I've stripped off the mudguard. I'm obviously watching too many Johnny Cactus videos, that's all I can say. My original theme for this bike was more the sort of slightly off-road look, very similar to Damage, I guess, in that sense. I guess that the whole off-road look tends to be where I like my bike. So what I did do was I bought another back mudguard some time ago. Stupidly didn't pay too much attention to the listing, and bought one that fits the iron head, which is the one before, and which has different struts on the back. So in actual fact it doesn't really fit very well. On the other hand, that's not really a major issue because it's going to get cut. Well, it has been. The major problem with modifying the back end of these is these struts, because sooner or later you end up cutting them off because they stick out a long way. I'm not quite ready to do that yet, so I have some plans to see if I can use that. Well, we'll see how that works. For the time being, if I can just grab my now shortened mudguard. So the remains, I cut the back end of it off, so the remains now, I can do this one-handed. So this basically will now fit into here like this. It's not really going to sit very well, but so that will sit back in there. Now I wanted a more dirt style back end, so I'm going to cut this. Now the problem with doing this, I've got to make up a bracket because, as I say, it's a different mudguard. It doesn't actually fit. All the bolt holes are in the wrong places, and in fact, with these later ones with this straight bar, the iron heads had a curved bar like this. And that means all these bolt holes on here sit above this, so I'm going to make a little mounting bracket to fit it in the right place. Seat sits here, back of the seat bolts to here, so this bit's got to be fairly well supported if I'm going with the standard mudguard, which I am at the moment. And saying, well, then leave all this just sticking out the side does mean I've got to relocate the indicators and find a way of fitting a backlight. But it should clean up the back end a bit, I think, except as I say, I'm going to need a backlight unit. I'm not a massive fan of the side mounts, I have to say, yeah, just not a massive fan of them, and it doesn't really suit the off-road look, to be honest. So it'll probably end up with the plate hanging off the back of that, which means I'm going to need to find a way to support this tail bit without it being too obvious, because if it's visibly supported then it loses the whole point of cutting it off. The idea is to leave it sort of clean, more like your standard dirt bike, stick out the back sort of look, but again that's what I'm going to end up with, I'm guessing. But also, rather more to the point, here is the second support. Now if you want to carry a passenger, there's the pillion pad will sit on here, and the same with the luggage rack, it bolts into here or between these two bolts. So if I want to carry a pillion and I want to leave myself the option of being able to do so, I need to find some way of supporting this, and that might be where my welder comes in, but the problem is that my welding is obviously a long way off being able to do that. Well, I guess that's something to see. But it's one of the reasons why I'm leaving everything relatively stock at the moment, and including keeping my existing back bumper and the struts, so that if necessary I can just shove it back and into standard configuration. Well, that's a much longer video than I would normally do, so thanks very much for watching. It's time I need to get off to work. I sound like Del Boy. So I'll see you all soon, hopefully, and ride safe.